Well, my name is Keith Estabrook. I'm from Litchfield, Maine. Okay. If you want to know about World War II, I was a draftee. When you become 18, there was a war going on, and when the government set up a system where when you turned, a male that is anyway, when you turned 18, you was to register for the draft. Okay? I registered for the draft when I turned 18. Okay? A month later, I was called for an examination, and I was passed, and I was accepted in the United States Army. And I went to Georgia for my training. After Georgia, I was sent overseas as a replacement. A replacement is if there was a person that was in the hospital or somebody that couldn't operate anymore or dead, then you were the replacement. You follow me? And so I was assigned to the 3rd Army, George S. Patton, 3rd Army in Europe, World War II. That's where I was assigned. Okay. Now, I was there, oh dear, I think it was something like 3 months, I'm going to say. 3 months. Then after that, the war ended. And I didn't have enough points to go home. We draftees, you had to earn so many points to get back out of the Army. You was drafted into the Army, but you had to have so many points to get out. So I didn't have enough points to go out, those other guys. And we was reassigned to the Ruhr Pocket. You know what the Ruhr Pocket was? It was a holdout of German soldiers that wouldn't believe the war was over. And so we were sent up there. And it was to contain them. Don't let them go anywhere. Don't let no supplies go into that Ruhr Pocket. Don't let no supplies come out. And so that's the way it was. We actually starved the Germans out of there to give up. And so anyway, finally, let's see, I had enough points to go home, so then I ended up coming back to America. I don't know. My kids in youth fellowship. I've been a youth leader for something like 50 years in Litchfield. And the kids always ask me, well, how was it, World War II? How was it? Well, how do you explain World War II to anybody? I'll tell you, you see a perfect picture of World War II when you watch your news. You see the pictures of Iran over there, and the guy with the machine gun, and another guy, they ain't even drawing a bead on anybody. They're just firing lead at somebody. And if you put out enough lead, you'll drive them out. If you drive them out, then you can take their place. That's about the way World War II was. You hear many stories, but I've been through it. And the thing is, it's no different than what you see on the news at night. That guy with the machine gun. That's just exactly the way it was.
So what was your life like when you got back?
Do what?
What was your life like when you got back from war?
Well, it seemed very strange because I was used to something else. When I went into the Army, it was very strange because I'd done civilian things, and you go in the Army and everything is systematic. You have to do according to the rules and regulations. So it was very weird, but I got used to that. But when I come out, I had to go back to what I used to be. And it was an adjustment. You have to make an adjustment. In the service, rules and regulations is what counts. You've got to go by rules. Well, you're in school, you know what I mean. Rules and regulations. You can't do this and you can't do that. Well, it's the same in the service. And so when I get out of the service, I was, hey, I'm free. Do anything I want.
And what did you do?
What did I want?
What did you do when you got out?
When I went out, well, I kind of looked for my friends that I had when I left. But you know, they had all married and moved out and done something else. And there was just nobody around. I felt like a lone soul roaming this earth.
And what was that like for you?
Huh?
What was that like?
Well, it's kind of a weird feeling. You feel like you don't belong anywhere, you know? You don't belong with this group, you don't belong with that group. And you just wait until you fit in somewhere. And finally, you'll fit in somewhere in a slot. And that's about the way it was.
And where did you end up going that you fit into?
Where did I end up going?
Yeah.
I stayed right in Litchfield. I married a girl in Litchfield. All the girls that I had dated had been all married while I was gone. I come back, and I felt kind of odd because I was older than most of them. And so finally, this is quite a story. The thing is, there was a group of us. I got together with a couple of guys finally, and we wanted to take some girls out. And so anyway, we all went out and we planned to make a date with a girl. And so anyway, they all turned out all right, but I don't know, I must be the black sheep of the family or something. But anyway, there was a couple of ladies out there picking tomatoes. It was a mother and a daughter. So I knew her before, but not to take out or anything like that, but I knew who she was. And so anyway, I asked her if I could take her to the drive-in. And she says, I don't know, Ma. So Ma says, what do you want? She says, can I go to the drive-in with this guy? She says, well, who is this guy anyway? You know how moms are, very protective. So anyway, I explained who I was and everything like that, and we was going as a group to the movies, to a drive-in. And so anyway, she allowed that it would be all right if her husband agreed. Well, I knew her husband. He was a rough old bird. And I knew her husband from before. And so anyway, his name was Percy Gowell. So I went up to Percy and I said, Percy. He said, what do you want? I says, I want to take Betty May to the drive-in. Well, he says, what's that to me? I said, well, your daughter and your wife both said that's up to you. He said, well, I don't care. I was so surprised, I almost fell over backwards because, I mean, he's a rough old bird, you know. But anyway, that was my first date with Betty May. And I hung right to Betty May, and I married Betty May. She died a couple of years ago. Yeah. So that's about it. Now where are we?
I don't know. Where are you now?
Right here.
So how did you hear about this project that we're doing?
I am on oh dear. Read it on the back. Kennebec.
County Veterans Honor Guard.
Okay. What that is, see, I'm supposed to leave here and go on one. It's a committal. We commit the veteran's body to the earth, and that's known as a committal. And that's where I'm going. So anyway, how did I get into that? See, now I've lost track. How did I get there?
How long have you been an honor guard?
Huh?
How long have you been an honor guard?
Oh, let's see, about 3 years, I guess. Yeah, about 3 years. Yeah.
How many World War II vets are there in the area?
How many? There ain't many of us left, I'll tell you. You see, my next birthday is February 13th, and I'll be 90 years old. And so there ain't many of us left. I'm at the end of the line. Yeah, but I've had a wonderful time. I didn't approve of the World War II, but I served because I was drafted. I really like the German people. They're very, very nice people. They had no part in this. It was their government. warring against our government is what it was. I lived with the Germans over there. When I went up to the Ruhr Pocket, there was no barracks or anything like that for the army. So what the constabulary did, which was the ruling force whenever you conquered a country, you had a constabulary set up, and that's to rule the country. And so anyway, they arranged for me to live with a German family. There were 6 in the family. And that's where I really learned a lot about Germany and speak a little bit of German. That's known as Deutsch, not Dutch. Dutch is Holland. Deutsch is German, okay? So anyway, I lived with them people until we finally convinced them in there by starving them out that the war was over. And so they all gave up. But anyway, it seems to me I'm getting off on that story for something else. What was we talking about? I have to have age, you know. I have a hard job keeping track.
The honor guard, right? Yeah. We were talking about the honor guard and how you got involved with it.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's where I'm going. When I leave here, I've got to go to Memorial Cemetery. And there's a veteran up there we've got to bury. And that's where I'm headed after I get done here. Now, how about somebody said, how did I get here for this project, so to speak? Well, his name, the guy that recommended me, and I didn't realize what I was getting into, the guy that recommended me was Jim Keenan. Y'all know Jim Keenan?
They haven't met him yet.
He's a school teacher down, well, he isn't anymore, but he was a school teacher down to Gardner. Gardner wouldn't be the high school. What's the other one? Up to the high school.
Just the middle school.
8th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Yeah, the middle school.
Yeah. Well, that Jim was a teacher down there, and he's on this honor guard. And I don't know how he heard about you guys. You wanted pictures and you wanted yak like we've been doing. And so anyway, Jim turned my name into somebody. I don't know who he turned it into. All of a sudden, I got this letter. And so I called. I forget who I called. Is there a Rennie?
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. It was a guy then. He told me to call Rennie and set an appointment up. And that's how I got here. I don't know.
Can you tell us about the family you stayed with?
What's that?
The family that you stayed with in Germany.
Jeez, I can't remember their name.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
How long did you stay with them?
I stayed with them probably, well, as long as that Ruhr Pocket lasted, about 3 months, I guess. 2 or 3 months, yeah.
And were any of them in the military? In the
No,
German?
no,
They were
no.
just a family.
No. Most of the German males was in the service. There was no, what do I want to say, drafting them like a setup we had. Automatically, you're in over the German army, you're in. Of course, our system was they had it set up where you had a number, and that number come around. When that number come around, that's it. The United States government invited you into the service of the United States Army. Yeah. Now where were we? I don't even know where we were.
What do you remember about Germany when you first arrived?
Well, it's no different to me. Germany is no different than the state of Maine. I mean, in tree growth, rugged country, rocky ledges and things like that. Yeah.
How did you arrive? You went by ship?
We arrived from the United States. We arrived at Le Havre, France. Okay. We had a hard job getting into the harbor because they had 3 sunken ships. Now the Germans figured they would agitate us by sinking these ships in that waterway so you couldn't get up through there with your supplies. But anyway, we made our way up through there and we was dropped off. After we was dropped off, you had certain areas that you had to go to. Like, we'll say there was a need in southern Germany. There was a need. Well, there may be 4 or 5 of us, or maybe 6 of us that would be assigned down there. So what we would do at this point would unload and find out where we was to go. And we that was to go to southern Germany would load up on trucks and go on trucks. But we come into Le Havre by boat, and of course that's up north. And like I say, I was assigned to Patton's Army, 3rd Army. And so I had to go by truck, Army truck. And I had to go down there to headquarters, and I was assigned to a certain company and all like that. Yep. And I was sent out on my first, duty on lines. Okay. I was in a machine gun. I was a replacement for a machine gunner. So we went on lines. Well, we didn't have that experience. We had it in training, but training in the actual thing is nothing like it. And so anyway, had my turn to go on guard. Oh, I got a little ahead of my story. When we arrived at our company, they was all with these binoculars looking at the German soldiers doing their daily duties, checking the oil in the vehicles and all like that, and see if they had gas and all like that. Now we was watching them and was getting a big bang out of that, being able to observe the Germans. That was really pretty good until it come night. And I was on my first guard duty, and as it got dark, all I could think of was seeing all them Germans over there. What would hold them Germans from coming and taking over us? Well, we had guards out in front of us, but what if they got through them guards? And so anyway, it bothered me on my mind. Well, we always had a cook that see that we got a hot meal during World War II. And so anyway, the guy that brought me the meal, his name was Sergeant Decent. I want you to think of that name, Decent. In the black of the night, when I was on guard on that machine gun, I had a man say, "It's all right, it's decent." Can you imagine hearing that in the black of the night? And in your mind, you see them German soldiers? Well, I tell you, that was very, very frightening to me. So, like I say, the cook took good care of us, and it was bringing us on a hot meal up. Well, we would set up here. We would take a door and set a door up and set a machine gun on the door right out that window, and we'd take our turn with the binoculars up there and watch and everything. But anyway, that's the situation. And the cooks come in, and I could hear things moving. I was getting frightened. I mean, I'm only 18 years old, and I'm getting frightened because I see these Germans out there. We observed them. And so the fella kept saying, "It's okay, it's decent." Well, in our training, we was trained that the Germans would try everything to infiltrate our line. You follow what I'm saying? And so anyway, in my mind, this is a German trying to penetrate. It's decent, in the black of the night. It's decent. I said, I don't care if it's decent or whatever it is. One more move and I'm opening this gun up. And I turned that machine gun, I had it out the window. I turned it right around, I headed it right back into the house. And I says, I'm going to spray this place with lead if I hear another sound out of anybody. Everything went quiet. Finally, a guy touched me. Do you know that every joint in my body come apart? I was so frightened. Only 18 years old. And I was so frightened at that, but I could have shot that. I could have killed the whole squad. There was 8 of us there. But anyway, I just melted. All my joints seemed to become unlocked. So anyway, they sent me downstairs. Decent was the guy that brought us the chow. Okay, he was a cook. And he brought us some hot chow. Because when you don't get the hot chow, you always got one hot meal a day, tried anyway. And the rest of the time you ate, oh dear, this packaged stuff that they put out. They called it, I don't know whether that was the K ration. I think it was the K ration. And so anyway, we really appreciated that hot meal. But anyway, that guy that touched me was one of the cooks. And he touched me, and I'm telling you, I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life. I was so terribly frightened, I could have died right there. If I had my age I got now there, I probably would have died of a heart attack. But anyway, so they sent me downstairs, and over in Germany, they raise a lot of potatoes. And every cellar in Germany has got a potato bin. I crawled up on that potato bin, out of the way. Nobody had any contact with me at all. I climbed up there, and boy, I fell asleep. By the way, potato in German is Kartoffel. Kartoffel. Isn't that a funny way to say potato? But anyway, Kartoffel. So I slept right there for quite a while, because I was just thoroughly exhausted. So they didn't send me up on duty when my turn come again. They was afraid I was going to shoot them all. So they didn't send me on duty. So I was relieved of my duty for that particular day anyway. But as time went on, I got sort of used to it, and they finally sent me up on duty on the gun. Yeah. But it was quite an experience. 18-year-old guy, never left Litchfield, never went out of Litchfield. Finally, I'm over here in Germany. And here I am with a machine gun out here in this field, looking for Germans. And the guy says when he bring his meal in, they come in through the cellar and then they come upstairs. We was always upstairs so that we were on an eye level, so that we could see anybody moving out there coming across the field or anything. And of course, that's when you opened the gun up, but I didn't see anything coming across the field. But that noise of them coming up through the cellarway and everything, he says it's decent, and I'll never forget that. It is decent. His name was Decent. His last name was Decent. And in the service, you always call a person by his last name. You never said George or Bill or something like that. It was always the last name. And his name was Decent. And that sounds so strange to me, who never left home. Finally woke up, so to speak, in Germany during World War II. It was a frightening experience.
Are you ready?
And you throw enough lead at them, you'll drive them out. And if they can't take it, they leave. And if they leave, then you take over. And that's about the way the war was, World War II. Yeah. Yeah. So the kids always ask me, did you ever draw a bead on a German? No, I never did. I never drawed a bead on another human being. We just fired at them. Just pour out all the lead you possibly can at them, and hopefully drive them out of that position. That's about the way it was. Yeah. And of course, you got the same thing today. You watch your news tonight. All I can see is that guy over in Iraq with a machine gun. Another guy out there with another machine gun. That's the way World War II was. Put out enough lead, you drive them out.
How did you hear about the end of the war?
How did I hear about the end of the war? Okay, we was on lines, like I say, and of course that's on combat. You're what do I want to say? You're making contact with the enemy. The enemy's here, you're here. Okay, that's on lines. Finally, word come over our phone. We had phones. You want to know how they had the electricity for the phones? Do you ever see these phones that they crank and it puts out electricity? Well, that's what we had. And that's how we kept track of everybody. And so it come over that the war was over. And we were just tickled to death. And them German people was some happy, now I'll tell you. But anyway, it's sort of a doubt to something like that, you know, the war is over. It's just like the Ruhr Pocket. The Germans would not, they were good soldiers. They just wouldn't believe the war was over. And of course we believed our commander when he said, you know. So anyway, there's another little aspect of this. We was up there in the Ruhr Pocket, and we was to starve them out of there. Don't let supply go in or supply comes out. Wait and allow them a time to surrender. Because it was told us by our command, if you kill one of them Germans, you're going to be charged with murder because the war's over. I thought that was very something, really. And so that was to keep us trigger happy guys from shooting a German. You follow what I'm saying? The war was over. And if the war was over and you killed one of them Germans, then you was liable for a murder conviction. And so that's what it was. We got it over the phone, the war was over. And it was one of them phones there. It wasn't like the phone you have here. Yeah.
Great. Why don't we can do your photograph now.
Do what?
We're gonna photograph you.
Oh,
So
I don't know. I like that.
let me just stop this.
Yes, this was in the Ruhr Pocket. Okay. We see this little town over there, and you know how the GIs are, all they want is souvenirs. They didn't care where they got it or anything else, and all they had a souvenir. And there was a little German house over there, and we watched it constantly from daybreak when you could see. No activity whatsoever. So me and my buddy, we said, we're going down there to see if we can get some souvenirs. So we worked our way out on the road and started down. And our commander, of course we called him Mama. Why did we call him Mama? He took awful good care of us. Do you know, every morning, even though he's under fire, would creep up and see if you're all right, see if you needed an aspirin or something, you know what I mean? And he had to check you in as being alive, you know what I mean? And so anyway, the thing is, I got to figure how I got to this. I get talking, I forget where I'm at. We was watching this little house, so we're going down to get souvenirs. Finally, Mama says, hey, where you guys going? We're going down to that little house. We've watched that little house ever since sunrise, and there's nothing going on. We're going down to get us some souvenirs. He says, you get back there. He says, I'll call command and find out if it's been cleared. In other words, when you're in combat and you want to go into a house, it'll be booby trap. You blow your head off. You follow what I'm saying? So it had to be cleared. And so Mama called battalion. Battalion said, get out of there. There's Germans just the other side of there, and we've got them all bracketed in. Bracket is so many shells this way, set 25 feet, so many shells, and that was brackets. And that would kill about anything, either by the concussion or the lead. Okay. So anyway, he said, take cover. They've got it all bracketed in. And about that time, things started booming. Boy, we did take cover. We jumped underneath a little bush there. Don't know what that bush was gonna do to help us, but we had the thought that we was hid. But anyway, that barrage went on for about, I guess about 10 minutes, I guess. But you know, there can be a lot of shells exploded in 10 minutes. So finally it stopped. When it stopped, we stood up. When we stood up, on the other side of the bush, there was 2 Germans. And of course they went through that barrage, and they was some frightened. They was glad it's over. They said, Hansi Hoven, Hansi Hoven. That means their hands are up. And so anyway, what are we gonna do with 2 Germans? So anyway, we went to Mama. Mama knows everything, don't she? Of course she does. We went to Mama and said, what are we gonna do with these guys? We don't want to take them back to headquarters. It's good, really, that's 2 or 3 miles. And so anyway, Mama says, listen, there's a GI Jeep right down there on one of them 4 corners down there. Go down and see them guys, see if you can pass them Germans off. So we went down and seen them MPs, and them MPs said, sure. MPs loaded them up, and they took them down to battalion. They do that for interrogation. See if they can get any information about the enemy or anything like that. Yeah, so we got rid of them. But that was the only time I had any real contact with a German soldier. Yeah, they begged and begged for their life. I don't know what they was talking about. And our interpreter told us they was begging for their life. They had a family, they had children, and they was begging for their life. They was told that never allow yourself to be taken prisoner because they'll only kill you anyway. So they was very, very frightened because they figured that we was going to kill them. And they was pleading for their life all the time, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. They was pleading for their life. They had wives and they had children, you know, and things like that. And they was just pleading for their life. Yeah. Well, I don't know whatever happened to them. You never know when you're in war. Like when they take them off, and then you had their military police took them out, we never see them again. You never see people again. Even your buddy next to you goes to the hospital, you never see him again. Because he has a due process that he goes through. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What can I help you with?
Well, we can do a photo now. So if you would, we can take your photo now.
Oh.
So you can sit here as a model.
I'll take this off.
Okay, let's do this.
By the way, this is a combat infantry badge. If you see anybody wearing this, a lot of them on TV, they wear it. Without